Hello everyone, I'm Marcus O'Brien, VP of AutoCAD, and you're listening to the AutoCAD podcast. In this series, we give you a peek behind the scenes at Autodesk and talk to the teams that support the future of the design and make industry. But before we do that, I need to review our safe harbor statement. Our podcast today may contain forward-looking statements about our products, business, and company information. Such information is merely our current plans, not promises or guarantees. Things may quickly change, and the development, release, and timing of any products or features remain at our sole discretion. Please don't rely on the information, especially for making purchasing decisions. So with the legalese out of the way, in today's episode, we'll be joined by Derek Cooper and Stephen Hooper, and I'm incredibly excited to have them here. These are some of the biggest hitters in Autodesk. And they work in Manufacturing Solutions Organization to walk you through the vision for our Autodesk Fusion industry platform and how it's redefining the industry for professionals. And don't forget to subscribe for updates on the latest episodes. So let's get started. So Stephen Hooper first. Steve is the Vice President of Design and Manufacturing at Autodesk, based in San Francisco, California. He's responsible for all aspects of product development for Autodesk design, simulation, and manufacturing platform. Steve qualified as a mechanical engineer in the UK. Having worked for a manufacturer of industrial machinery, he joined Autodesk over 20 years ago and has since served in a variety of leadership roles across sales, strategy and marketing, and product development. He's a believer in lifelong learning. He returned to undergrad study in his 30s to build on his knowledge of computing science and is currently studying again, this time with Cornell as an executive MBA candidate in the class of 2024. That's exciting stuff. His diverse experience in design and product development drives his passion for the manufacturing business. He relishes the opportunity to work with everyone from high-profile enterprises to startups and partners to extend our leadership in this critical industrial sector and ensure success for our customers as they embrace the future of making. Welcome to the podcast, Steve.
Thanks.
And Derek. Derek, welcome to the podcast. As the Vice President of Data and Process Management Group, Derek is responsible for managing the product strategy and delivery of the data and process solutions for both Vault and the Fusion 360 family of products. Over the last 20 years, Derek has been focused on leading and inspiring globally distributed teams to build amazing products. He has taken a hands-on approach connecting with customers and obsessively delivering value through innovation. His passion lies in connecting customer needs, market demands, and delivering a predictable and robust product strategy that exceeds all expectations. Before joining Autodesk, Derek was head of product at Blue Ridge Numerics. The company's flagship product, CF Design, pioneered a category of upfront CFD. The technology was rebranded Autodesk CFD when Autodesk acquired the company in 2011. Derek holds an MSc and a BSc in Mechanical Engineering from Temple University. Welcome both of you to the AutoCAD podcast.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So before we get started today, I'd love to give our AutoCAD listeners just a quick highlight of some of the AU things we talked about. It says here it just wrapped up. It was actually last year. It feels like a long time ago to me, but a lot of things have changed since then. So we had a great turnout in terms of customers. We announced Autodesk AI and how our products have been leveraging it. And honestly, it was a really great opportunity for us to be able to talk about some of the things that we've been keeping kind of quiet for a number of years. So a kind of a big reveal. And three of the big things we talked about, of course, were Forma, Fusion, and Flow. And bringing those to our customers in terms of talking about the vision in a bit more detail. So from your point of view, what were some of your favorite moments from AU?
I mean, there's a lot there to unpack. Obviously, my favorite part of AU is always meeting up with customers. I love seeing what our customers have been doing. We got the opportunity to present with one of them, Rivian, which was awesome. It's a pretty aspirational company and they're doing some innovative work and they're working with Autodesk right the way across from design all the way through to production. So that was pretty informative. For me personally, the technologies we've been working on, I think two highlights for me. One was our investment in generative AI. So we got the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we've been investing in, some of the capabilities that we're bringing to market, some that are already there. So we talked about some of the extensive partnerships we've built with the likes of Cadence, Cloud NC for machining and production work. And then we also talked about our investment in Factory, which was something I'm really interested in because having worked for a production operation with a large factory operation space, it's something that was close to my heart. And it also unifies a lot of what Autodesk does. So if you think about all of the work that you do with AutoCAD or Revit in order to develop a building and then populate it with the manufacturing information that comes from tools like Inventor or Fusion, it's a really nice combination of Autodesk technology offerings coming together. And the last acquisition we just completed was of a company called Flexim, which now enables us to simulate the production flow, inventory, and people within a factory operation. So, I mean, there was a ton of stuff to share with customers. But again, I think my highlight was really getting to spend time with people that are using our products and understanding more from them what they're doing and where we can develop next.
Fantastic. And what about you, Derek?
Yeah, I think similar. I build off of what Steve said around the customers. I think because it's been a while, or we've been doing things so virtually for so long, getting in the same room with people and getting on whiteboards and actually really working through the projects, I anticipated that. But I think what was surprised the most was I was expecting to go and share as much information that people wanted to hear from us. I learned a ton of what our customers have been doing over the last 2 to 3 years, from small startups up to some of our largest and oldest customers. How much innovation and progress they have made, and how adaptable they are. That was huge for me. That I wasn't expecting. I guess in hindsight I should have, but that was a pleasant surprise.
I'm always kind of surprised by how they use our technologies. It's tempting for us, I think, for Derek and I. We're very much focused on manufacturing, so we see the whole universe through the lens of Inventor and Fusion and Vault and so on. But then when you talk to customers, you realize just how diverse all the technologies they use are. And they're not just using one or two products, they're using everything. And it's not just Autodesk technology. There's plenty of software tools that are coming from other vendors. And from a customer's point of view, it's always interesting to hear how they're building these solutions together to serve their needs. So I know I spent a lot of time with people using our construction cloud, for example. So you see AutoCAD, construction cloud, Revit, Inventor, Fusion, all being used together. Right? It's very informative for us.
Yeah.
It was the interest in APIs. I almost felt, as an ex-sales person in the sales world, you kind of danced around API sometimes with some customers just weren't comfortable with it. And I saw not only are they comfortable with it, there's a thirst for it. So it just kind of builds off what you're saying around connecting these products, ours and even our competitors. There's an openness and an understanding that API first mentality is incredibly important. So something that resonated with me for sure.
It reminds me of about 5 years ago when we would talk to customers at AU and they would say they don't want to put their data in the cloud because their IP is so important. And then this paradigm shift happened, and it's like, oh, by the way, everything's in the cloud. We got
That's right.
You need to be better connected to cloud. Why are you behind? And it does feel like that API shift has happened, where everything, this interoperability and connectedness is just expected now, and that's certainly something our AutoCAD customers are feeling for sure. Super interesting, yeah. So can we talk a little bit about, you said that our customers are very visionary and that and how much they've adapted and kind of how much has changed over this period of time as we've all been working more remotely. We talked a lot about our vision, our kind of future vision for Fusion and where we want to take those customers. Can you talk kind of briefly between you what that vision means and where we're going?
Sure. Yeah, on face value, the most obvious opportunity is convergence between all of the design and simulation processes with the production and manufacturing processes. And that's not just the authoring tools. I mean, Derek obviously represents all of our data management, lifecycle, and process management tools, and the core underlying data infrastructure that sits behind them. So I think the most obvious benefit is the convergence between those tools, delivering better productivity, change propagation, and management through the product development process. The second one, as you said, is we all work remotely now. So centralization of data in the cloud obviously provides a lot more flexibility for manufacturing organizations to work across their supply chains or to distribute their staff and have them work remotely or in the field. But the third one, I think, which brings those together, is that once the data's in the cloud and the services that operate on the data, whether it's CAD or CAM, simulation or data management, once all of those are in the cloud, then you can start to do some really interesting things with automation. Being able to take our 3D models from the design side of the business and automate the process of developing machine tool strategies in the cloud on behalf of a customer, or developing drawings automatically on behalf of a customer. Those are the things that are really transformative. If many of the people that listen to this podcast are probably spending a lot of time creating drawings, the opportunity to automate some aspects of that process so that they can focus on the more complex areas of their business, I think is a terrific opportunity once the data's in the cloud. And that's really always been Fusion's core strategy, is to unify both the data and the services in the cloud so that we can develop better connectivity across the supply chain, but also deliver those automation capabilities that I mentioned.
Great.
Maybe Derek, you could talk about, once that data is there and in an open format, just how easy it is for partners to connect.
That's right. And I think there's a connection between what Steve was talking about and the API. So it's like a chicken and an egg problem, is that there's an appreciation for the outcome being automation. And then the steps to get there is APIs. Well, why couldn't I just do that, 10 years ago? The reality was different file formats, different systems. And I even open and view a file, I literally had to open it. And that paradigm has shifted in that it's much more granular. So we use this word granular data all the time. And it's simply it just means taking big lumps of information and breaking it down. So think about a part. It would have a geometric representation. It would have material properties. It would have a cost. It would have vendors. Well, in order to get that oftentimes out of the traditional systems, is you have to go in there and literally search for it. Where now in the cloud, it's exposed in an API that any system, SAP or any of your ERP systems can tie into anytime.
Fantastic. And we talk about in terms of design, one of the things that resonates for our customers when they say, yeah, but make it more tangible for me. We talk about a pipe is a pipe is a pipe, irrespective of where that pipe was designed, whether it was in AutoCAD, whether it was in Fusion, whether it was in Revit, that a pipe is a pipe and it's granular. And you don't need AutoCAD to be able to open that and understand what it is. The context, it's already identified as a pipe, and it's granular within. We deal with that. We'll deal with that complexity. That's not something we should need our customers to worry about. Right.
Once you've done that and that information is granular, one of our philosophies is to keep it open. And like I said, one of the key highlights for me at AU was the opportunity to talk about our work with partners, because that ecosystem now gets much more expansive the more open our data architecture is. So some of those machining automation technologies I spoke about were produced by Cloud NC, and they're obviously a partner company that we work with. But that's just one small example. You could take another example like MakerSite, which helps provide insight on sustainability in design or design for manufacturing. So there are all sorts of things that perhaps Autodesk doesn't have the bandwidth to focus on that granular level of detail that this open data infrastructure enables our partners to come in and take care of. And the last thing I would say, just talking to a customer this morning, they have no intention to standardize on Autodesk across all elements of their product design and lifecycle management process, and nor should they. But that open approach to data infrastructure and the APIs that Derek's talking about means that anyone can integrate, whether it's a competitor or not. Mm-hmm. From our perspective, as long as we're serving the customer in the best way possible, I don't think it matters too much to us how much of our ecosystem they use versus that of our partners or our competitors, so long as it all works together smoothly.
Right. I love it. That's kind of where we're going. That's the North Star. And I would say for our customers who are in the AEC industry, I think if you want to see where we're going to be with Forma, maybe in a year or two, we're probably closer. We kind of look to our friends over here in Fusion. We're kind of following that road that you're a little bit further down the road than we are. But when we bring it back to today and kind of more tangible stuff, what are some of the capabilities that we're investing in right now? What are some of the things you're excited about today for customers?
One of the things that we're looking for, Steve mentioned it a few minutes ago, is in this convergence. So what we hear from customers is they like the cloud tools that we have. And yes, that the data works together, but they want a converged solution as well, right? So it's not just the data backbone behind the scenes. It has to be usable. And I have to be able to get it from my phone or my tablet, or I can log into my home computer, and I should be able to access at least some level of the information. So this idea of convergence on these data tools is something that we're working on.
Yeah, I'd add, go back to the convergence story again on the authoring side. Obviously, we've taken a lot of our own component technology. You think about the drawings that are produced inside of Fusion. It's actually AutoCAD under the hood. So that's the core geometry engine that's producing the drawings inside of Fusion. But obviously, we don't have, the technical core competence in every single area of product development. So partnering with Cadence, for example, to converge electronics PCB design as part of that process has been pretty interesting. And then the other piece I'd say is I'd go back to the automation. The idea that you can develop a 3D design and then automate the process of producing the 2D documentation which I would add is still native. So you can still go in there and edit it. And it's not a magic bullet that solves every problem. But what it does do is it dramatically reduces the amount of time you've got to spend on producing layouts and baseline annotations and detailing. Lets you really focus on the complex stuff like the tolerancing, tolerance stack-ups, GD&T, the more technical elements of a drawing that aren't so rules-driven. So those types of automation workflows, I think, for me, were possibly some of the most exciting.
We talked about Autodesk AI at AU a lot, and we've had several capabilities we've been working on for many years, but we haven't been able to brand them as Autodesk AI just yet. But things like Smart Blocks and Markup Assist, we've got our Macro Advisor, which can, a little notification in product that if you're doing a workflow, we'll create macros for you so that you're more efficient in your workflow. These are the kind of automations you're talking about here, Steve, where they can be very small, but really empower you to get things done more quickly, or take away some of that kind of trivial work and let you work on the things that are most important, that need a human decision, need a creative decision. So I've been very excited by that. And I've had a chance to work with you, Steve, on some of the automations broadly across Autodesk. What are some of the things that you're interested in? Maybe I'll start with Derek. What are some of the things, Derek, that in terms of AI that you're most excited about, either that we're doing right now or where we're going?
I mean, automating the processes is certainly something that, as you called out, Marcus, we've invested in and will continue to invest in. The thing that is most exciting to me is when we can leverage the AI to come back and tell you something. So it's rather than me telling you to do this or speed this up or here are the 10 clicks and automate that, I want the system to come back and tell me that I don't need to do these 10 clicks or this thing could be done faster. So that's stuff that's, we see it in text ChatGPT capabilities today. It's not too far out from what we're going to do in design. So that's probably the thing that gets me excited the most.
Makes sense. What about you, Steve?
Well, I mean, there's the big stuff, like I said, like the drawings and the machining strategies that, again, I think you said it well, they're not intended to kind of replace a human being, but it's a little bit like Microsoft with Copilot. It's an assistant that can sat there by your side helping you with this work and enabling you to focus on the most valuable pieces. So it helps you scale what you can do. I think the thing that excites me most is I won't pick out any of the specific functions. What I'll say is that project that you and I got to work on illustrated why the strategy around Fusion, Forma, and Flow was so important, because it's pretty obvious across the whole of Autodesk that many of our product development teams have developed very valuable automation capabilities. And you just mentioned some on the AutoCAD side. Now, knowing that AutoCAD is actually the drawing geometry engine that's inside of Fusion because of that convergence strategy means that we can share in the benefit of that capability. We're not rewriting the same automations 50 times across 50 different products. We've got one industry cloud for each of our customer groups, right, that leverages the same underlying technology. So all of that goodness that you've built into AutoCAD then becomes magically available inside of Fusion with a little effort on our developers' side, not a complete rewrite. So I think for me, that's the most exciting thing. In the old days, and as you kindly pointed out, I've been here for a couple of decades now. I lost track of the number of times we rewrote the extrude command across all of our various products. These automation capabilities, the idea is that you write them once and that everyone can get benefit from them. So I think that's one of the most exciting things, is just seeing how the organization can scale its effort.
It scales differently for sure. We've talked about where we're going. We've talked about our vision. We've talked about some of the tangible benefits that are happening today. But you've also talked about some of the lessons we've learned along the way. You talked about maybe we shouldn't rewrite things 15 different times for different products. What are some of the speed bumps or the lessons we've learned from PDMS industry along the way that you could share here? What are the things we got wrong? What are the things we thought were right that didn't end up being right? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I could share a couple. I think there's a temptation to think that whatever the latest technology you're working on is going to be like the utopia for everyone. Something we've learned well at Autodesk is that the technologies in our portfolio stay in our portfolio. So, I remember when we first started working on Inventor, the belief was that people were going to move to parametric design and that would be the way that you would create your 2D documentation. And here we are like 25 years later, and we're still very much dependent on the relationship between Inventor and AutoCAD. It's not one replace the other. These technologies basically complement each other. I think the same is true with the industry clouds, maybe with a couple of nuances. I think firstly, Fusion will work alongside our existing technologies like Inventor and AutoCAD. And I kind of see the transition from 2D to 3D wasn't either or, it was and. And I think the same will be true from desktop to cloud. You'll still use both sets of technologies and they'll work together very nicely, and we'll manage the data nicely between the two different types of technology. The second thing I would say is getting reuse, component reuse. So you get smooth, predictable behavior, data migrates, and it's also faster for us to develop. And good examples of that, I mentioned it a couple of times. We use AutoCAD under the hood to create our 2D documentation inside of Fusion. We also took what we call the Dell CAM machining kernel. That's the core engine underneath our CAM solutions. And we use that in the cloud for Fusion's calculations. And again, that means that we should have an easier time when we help customers use both tool sets because they're using the same computation under the hood. Mm-hmm. And I think that enables us as a developer to move faster. And it also means that when we develop something for Fusion, it also benefits the other products in our portfolio. So again, it's not an either or, it's an and the customer does better as a result.
I love that. What about you, Derek?
Yeah, what's coming to mind is it seems like an obvious thing to say, but as you move from traditional desktop or on-premise CAD and CAM and data management, you move everything to the cloud and everything becomes a little bit more seamless. The tolerance for poor experience or poor quality is significantly different. I did tech support for a few years, right? And you would say, oh, here's the workaround and just, don't use that command, use this. And there's always something. The tolerance level, and rightfully so, is really low for customers. They just want it to work. So don't ship things until they're ready to go. Or if you do, ship it in an alpha or an insider program and stuff like that. I mean, we've always done it, but I don't think I appreciated the magnitude of how important the quality and the experience is when you move to the cloud. All good reasons why, right? We live in Facebook and Salesforce or whatever your tools are at home and work. So your tolerance level is just low. And I think that puts us on point, right? To be accountable.
100%. Great. So in order to be able to make sure we were successful with Fusion, Forma, and Flow, we had a big reorganization internally to achieve that goal. What were some of the things, maybe I'll ask you, Stephen, what are some of the things that enabled for us? Why was it important that we did that restructuring internally for our customers?
I think it enabled us to go to more of a platform mindset. And I've seen Autodesk go through probably, 2 or 3 rounds of transformation. When I first got here, we were an AutoCAD company. Quite rightly. And in those days, I think AutoCAD was kind of our platform. So everyone wrote verticals on top of AutoCAD, ARX or Lisp on top of AutoCAD. Everyone's building off the same base. So although it's a desktop product, it's still a platform for the company. And then we went through a period of verticalization for the different industry groups. So Revit, Inventor, Max, Maya. And these are different technology platforms that are basically built specifically tailored to an industry vertical. And that's fine. It actually enables you to make some pretty good fast progress. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't help you scale. And also, sometimes those technologies end up in semi-competition with one another. And that doesn't benefit the customer and it doesn't benefit us. And I think the move to platform means that the folks that are working on some of our desktop tools, whether that's Inventor or Vault, are also the folks that are working on our cloud tools. And, that could be Fusion, it could be Fusion Manage or Fusion 360. The benefit of that is that from our perspective, we get to learn from the experience those developers have had in that domain previously. And from our customer's point of view, they get that experience built into the products. It ensures that the products work more tightly together, better integrations, better workflows. So I think that's probably one of the best learnings for us as an organization. And it's helped us scale and grow faster. And I think it creates a better community amongst our developers where they're more supportive of one another. And that all translates across into customer benefit.
Right. I agree.
Steve said it right at the end. It's the customer experience. So if you were wondering why there are different dialogues, they were written by different teams. And we're just much more conscious of that moving forward.
Right.
That if there's a dialogue box, there should be one, and we should try to standardize on it and share it. And there's I think where Steve was hitting on is there's also a paradigm shift in our minds as developers, that it's not that what I build. It's like, does it exist already? And if so, how can I reuse it and make it better so that the next person benefits from it? So it's a win-win.
Really great. Look, we're coming towards the close of this podcast here. I do need to make a shout out. We've launched a Shop Talk podcast this year. So if you're looking for more Autodesk podcasts, you should tune into that and make sure you check it out. We'll be hosting highlights and useful resources on the AutoCAD blog as well. So watch that space so that you can get as much AutoCAD as you want. I want to say a special thanks to these incredibly busy people. Derek and Stephen are two of the busiest people and best people in Autodesk. These are the people who are making these changes. They're very, very busy. And I want to thank you for your time today. It was really invaluable. Thanks for sharing your experiences.
Too kind. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Have a great day.